Walking is often treated as something simple, just putting one foot in front of the other. But inside the body, it is not simple at all. I'm Dr. Warren Hung. On this channel, I explain how the body actually works so you can protect your long-term health with clarity, not guesswork. If that's something you value, you can subscribe for more explanations like this. When you walk, several systems are working together at the same time. Your muscles are not just moving your legs. They are acting like pumps. Each step gently squeezes the veins in your legs. This helps push blood back up toward your heart. This process is often called the muscle pump. Without it, blood tends to pool in the lower body, especially as we get older. At the same time, your heart adjusts. It increases its output slightly to match the movement. Not like during intense exercise, but enough to improve circulation. Better circulation means oxygen and nutrients reach tissues more efficiently. It also means waste products are cleared more effectively. Your joints are also involved in a very controlled way. The hips, knees, and ankles are designed to move through a specific range. Not too stiff, not too loose. When walking is done properly, the load is shared across these joints. That protects cartilage, which is the smooth surface that allows joints to glide without friction. Your nervous system is coordinating everything in the background. It is constantly adjusting balance, posture, and step timing. Even small changes in the ground or your speed are processed instantly. And there is another system that is often overlooked: your metabolism. Walking helps your body regulate blood sugar. After a meal, muscles use glucose from the bloodstream. This reduces the load on insulin, the hormone that controls blood sugar levels. Large population studies, including data from the Nurses' Health Study, have shown that regular walking is associated with a lower risk of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Not because walking is intense, but because it is consistent and engages multiple systems at once. So when walking is working properly, it does 4 key things: supports circulation, maintains joint health, activates muscles, stabilizes blood sugar. Now, here is where things start to shift. After the age of 60, the body does not respond to walking in exactly the same way. Muscle mass gradually decreases. This process is known as sarcopenia. With less muscle, the pump effect becomes weaker. Blood does not move upward as efficiently. Joints also change. Cartilage becomes thinner over time. Ligaments may become less stable. This means the same walking pattern that once felt natural may now place uneven stress on certain areas. Balance control also becomes less precise. The nervous system reacts slightly slower. Not enough to notice immediately, but enough to affect coordination. And metabolism becomes less flexible. Muscles become less sensitive to insulin. So even if you are walking, the effect on blood sugar may not be as strong as it once was. This is why simply walking more is not always the full answer. The way you walk begins to matter more than the fact that you are walking. 2 people can walk the same distance every day and have very different outcomes. One maintains strength, circulation, and stability. The other slowly develops joint pain, fatigue, or poor metabolic control. The difference is not effort. It is how the body is being used during the movement. And many of the most common walking habits after 60 do not support the systems we just talked about. They quietly work against them. The problem is that these patterns feel normal. They don't feel like mistakes. But over time, they change how the body functions. They reduce circulation instead of improving it. They overload joints instead of protecting them. They limit muscle activation instead of supporting it. And this happens gradually. Not in a way that is obvious day to day, but in a way that builds over months and years. That is why understanding what is happening underneath the movement becomes important. Because once you see how walking is supposed to work, it becomes much easier to recognize when something is off. But to understand why these small changes matter, we need to look at what actually shifts inside the body after 60 and how those shifts change the way walking affects your health. As the body ages, the systems that support walking do not stop working, but they become less efficient. This change is gradual. Most people do not notice it happening. One of the first shifts occurs in muscle tissue. After the age of 60, muscle mass tends to decrease at a faster rate. This is known as sarcopenia. It does not only mean less strength. It also changes how muscles behave during movement. Muscles are responsible for absorbing impact, stabilizing joints, and supporting circulation. When muscle mass decreases, each of these functions becomes weaker. For example, when your foot touches the ground, your muscles are supposed to absorb part of that force. If they cannot do that effectively, more stress is transferred directly to the joints. Over time, this increases the load on the knees, hips, and ankles. Data from longitudinal studies such as the Health, Aging, and Body Composition Study, Health ABC study, show that lower muscle mass in older adults is associated with reduced mobility and higher risk of functional decline. But muscle is only one part of the system. Joint structures also change. Cartilage, which cushions the joints, becomes thinner with age. It also becomes less able to repair itself. This means that small imbalances in movement can lead to more noticeable wear over time. Ligaments, which help stabilize joints, may also lose some elasticity. This reduces joint stability. So instead of smooth, evenly distributed movement, the body may begin to rely on compensations. One joint takes on more load than it should. Another moves less than it should. And this often happens without pain at first. Balance is another system that changes. Your nervous system uses signals from your eyes, inner ear, and joints to keep you stable. After 60, these signals can become less precise. Reaction time slows slightly. Coordination becomes less automatic. This does not mean someone cannot walk well. It means the system requires more careful input to maintain the same level of stability. Even small changes in posture or stride can affect balance more than they used to. Then there is circulation. As we discussed earlier, walking helps blood move through the body. But this depends on the muscle pump working effectively. With reduced muscle mass and strength, this pumping action becomes weaker. Blood may move more slowly through the veins in the legs. This can contribute to swelling, heaviness, or fatigue. Research from the Framingham Heart Study has shown that reduced physical function and lower activity levels are linked to poorer cardiovascular outcomes over time. Walking still helps, but its effectiveness depends on how the body is using the movement. Metabolism also becomes less responsive. Muscle tissue plays a major role in how the body handles glucose. With less muscle, there is less capacity to absorb glucose from the bloodstream. This contributes to what is called insulin resistance. The UK Prospective Diabetes Study, UKPDS, and later analyses have shown that reduced physical activity and muscle mass are associated with poorer blood sugar control in older adults. So even if someone is walking regularly, the metabolic benefit may be reduced if muscle engagement is low. I remember a patient in his early 70s who told me he walked every morning for almost an hour. He felt he was doing everything right, but he still had increasing knee discomfort, and his blood sugar levels were slowly rising. When we looked more closely, his walking pattern was very slow, with minimal arm movement and very short steps. He was moving, but his muscles were not being used effectively. And this illustrates something important about how the body works. Movement alone is not enough. The quality of movement determines which systems are being activated. After 60, the margin for error becomes smaller. Small inefficiencies that once had no consequence can now have measurable effects. A slightly shorter stride can reduce muscle activation. A slightly forward-leaning posture can increase joint stress. A slightly slower pace can reduce cardiovascular stimulation. Individually, these changes seem minor. But together, they alter how walking affects the body. This is why many people continue walking every day, yet still experience joint discomfort, reduced stamina, poor circulation, unstable blood sugar levels. The walking itself is not the problem. The way the body is being used during walking has changed. And because these changes happen gradually, they are rarely corrected. They become habits. And those habits are what we are going to look at next. Because many of the most common walking patterns after 60 are not neutral. They actively work against the systems that are supposed to support your health. And once you see these patterns clearly, it becomes much easier to understand why walking is not always giving the benefits people expect. By this point, you can see that walking is not just about moving. It is about how the body uses that movement. Now we are going to go through the 7 walking mistakes that commonly reduce the benefits of walking after 60. Each one may seem small on its own, but over time, they change how your muscles, joints, and circulation work together. 1. Walking too slowly without muscle engagement. Many people believe that as long as they are walking, the speed does not matter. But walking very slowly, without engaging your muscles, reduces the effect of the muscle pump. When your leg muscles contract more firmly, they push blood upward through the veins. If the movement is too gentle, this effect becomes minimal. This means less circulation support, less cardiovascular stimulation, less metabolic benefit. Walking does not need to be fast, but it does need to be purposeful. Studies from the Harvard Alumni Health Study have shown that walking pace is associated with cardiovascular risk independent of total distance walked. After 60, a slightly more active pace helps maintain circulation and muscle activation. 2. Taking very short steps. Short steps often feel safer, but they reduce how much your muscles are used. A longer, natural stride allows better activation of the glute muscles, more balanced use of the hips and knees, improved forward movement efficiency. When steps become too short, the body relies more on the knees. The hips contribute less. Muscle activation decreases. Over time, this can increase stress on the knee joint. This pattern is often seen in people who are trying to protect themselves from discomfort, but it can lead to the opposite effect. 3. Not using your arms. Walking is not just a lower body activity. Your arms play a role in balance and coordination. When you swing your arms naturally, your body maintains better rhythm. Your torso rotates slightly. Your balance improves. Without arm movement, walking becomes more rigid. Energy use becomes less efficient. Balance control decreases. This also reduces overall muscle involvement, which limits the metabolic benefit. 4. Leaning forward while walking. A slight forward posture may feel natural, but excessive leaning changes how weight is distributed. When you lean forward, more pressure is placed on the knees. The hips do less work. Posture becomes less stable. Over time, this can contribute to knee discomfort, lower back strain, reduced balance control. The body is designed to move with the head positioned over the spine, not in front of it. 5. Walking in unsupportive footwear. Footwear affects how force is transmitted through the body. Shoes that lack support or cushioning can increase impact on joints, alter foot alignment, reduce stability. This changes how forces move from the ground up through the ankles, knees, and hips. The American Podiatric Medical Association emphasizes that proper footwear can reduce stress on lower limb joints, especially in older adults. After 60, small changes in joint loading can have larger, long-term effects. 6. Walking only on flat, predictable surfaces. Flat surfaces feel comfortable, but they reduce the demand on balance and coordination systems. When the walking environment is always the same, the nervous system is less challenged. Balance skills are not maintained. Stabilizing muscles are underused. Over time, this can reduce adaptability. The body becomes less prepared for uneven ground, which increases fall risk. Controlled variation helps maintain these systems. 7. Walking for long durations without variation. Long walks are often seen as beneficial, but doing the same movement for extended periods without change can lead to repetitive stress. When movement patterns do not vary, the same joints are loaded repeatedly. The same muscles are used in the same way. Recovery is reduced. This can contribute to joint irritation, muscle fatigue, reduced efficiency over time. Research referenced in WHO physical activity guidelines highlights the importance of varied movement, not just duration. After 60, the body responds better to balanced, varied activity rather than prolonged repetition. These mistakes are common because they feel normal. They do not cause immediate problems. They build gradually. And because walking is seen as a safe activity, these patterns are rarely questioned. But as you've seen, each of these habits changes how the body functions. They reduce the very benefits walking is supposed to provide. But once you understand these patterns, the next step is to adjust them in a way that restores how the body is meant to move. Once you see these walking patterns clearly, the goal is not to walk more. The goal is to walk in a way that supports how the body actually works. Each of the mistakes we discussed has a corresponding adjustment. These are not complex changes, but they shift how your muscles, joints, and circulation behave during movement. Let's go through what the body needs instead. First, walking should be active, not passive. This does not mean fast or intense. It means your muscles are participating. A slightly quicker, steady pace helps your leg muscles contract more effectively. This strengthens the muscle pump, which improves blood flow back to the heart. Better circulation supports oxygen delivery and reduces the feeling of heaviness in the legs. Large cohort data from the Women's Health Initiative show that moderate-intensity walking is associated with lower cardiovascular risk compared to very low-intensity movement. Second, your steps should be natural in length. Not exaggerated, but not shortened out of caution. A natural stride allows the hips to do their share of the work. This spreads the load across the hip and knee instead of concentrating it in one joint. The hip muscles, especially the gluteal muscles, are designed to generate force during walking. When they are underused, the knees compensate. Restoring stride length helps re-engage those larger muscle groups. Third, your arms should move with your body. This improves rhythm and balance. When your arms swing, your torso rotates slightly. This rotation helps distribute movement across the body instead of isolating it in the legs. It also improves coordination, which is important for stability. Fourth, your posture should remain upright and aligned. Your head should be positioned over your shoulders, and your shoulders over your hips. This alignment allows forces to travel through the skeleton in a balanced way. When posture is correct, joints share the load. Muscles do not overcompensate. Balance becomes more stable. If posture shifts forward, even slightly, these systems become less efficient. Fifth, footwear should support movement, not interfere with it. Shoes should provide stability, allow natural foot motion, reduce excessive impact. This does not mean highly specialized footwear is always required, but poorly fitting or worn-out shoes can change how force moves through the body. The American Geriatric Society notes that proper footwear is one of the modifiable factors that can reduce fall risk in older adults. Sixth, walking should include controlled variation. This does not mean unsafe or unpredictable environments. It means exposing the body to slightly different conditions. Gentle slopes, varied textures, small changes in direction. These variations activate stabilizing muscles and challenge balance systems in a controlled way. This helps maintain adaptability. Without variation, the nervous system becomes less responsive. Seventh, walking should be balanced in duration and structure. Long walks are not harmful by themselves, but repeating the exact same pattern for extended periods can lead to overload. Breaking walking into shorter segments or slightly changing pace and terrain allows the body to distribute stress more evenly. This supports recovery and reduces repetitive strain. Now, when you look at all of these together, a pattern becomes clear. Walking works best when muscles are engaged, joints share the load, posture is aligned, movement is varied. This is not about doing more. It is about restoring how the system is supposed to function. There is also an important distinction to make. Many people try to manage symptoms. They walk to reduce stiffness. They walk to feel less tired. They walk because they were told it is good for them. But if the walking pattern itself is inefficient, those symptoms may persist. The body is still under the same mechanical and metabolic stress. Correcting the movement addresses the cause. It improves circulation, joint loading, muscle activation, metabolic response. Over time, this changes how the body responds to walking. The same activity begins to produce different results. And this is where small adjustments matter. Not because they are dramatic, but because they are consistent. Walking is something many people do every day. So even small improvements in how you walk are repeated again and again. And that repetition is what shapes long-term outcomes. If you want clear, medically grounded explanations like this that help you understand how your body actually works, you can subscribe to the channel. Walking remains one of the most accessible forms of movement after 60. But its benefits are not automatic. They depend on how your body is being used with each step.